I'll never forget the look on their faces when their phones started buzzing at exactly 12:01 a.m. on New Year's Day. One by one. Ding, ding, ding. Notification after notification, lighting up the room like a synchronized light show from hell. My cousin Ashley dropped her champagne glass. It shattered across the marble floor in slow motion, golden liquid spreading like guilt across the white stone. But no one even looked down. My brother Derek's jaw went slack, his phone nearly slipping from his hands as his fingers went numb. And my Aunt Linda? She let out a sound I'd never heard a human make before, somewhere between a gasp, a scream, and the noise an animal makes when it's caught in a trap. Uncle Richard's face drained of color so fast I thought he might pass out right there in his $8,000 suit. Just 30 minutes earlier, they'd all been laughing at me, mocking me. Ashley had literally called me Charity Case Barbie in front of 40 people. Derek had asked if I'd Ubered to the party because there's no way your car would make it up the driveway. Aunt Linda had pulled me aside and offered me a $100 bill, whispering, "For groceries, sweetie. You look so thin." They thought I was broken. Poor. Pathetic. But now? Now their phones were telling them a very different story. And the countdown to their destruction had officially begun. My name is Maya Chin, and for the last 3 years and 4 months, I'd been my family's favorite punching bag. But let me take you back to when everything changed. I was 26 years old when I got the call. The call that splits your life into before and after. My parents, David and Susan Chin, had been driving home from their anniversary dinner. Dad had been married once before and had my half-brother Derek from that marriage, but he and my mom had built something beautiful together. 28 years of marriage. 28 years of inside jokes, Sunday morning pancakes, and the kind of love that made you believe in forever. A drunk driver ran a red light at 70 miles per hour. They died instantly. The police officer who came to my apartment said they didn't suffer. Like that was supposed to help. Like knowing they died instantly made the hole in my chest any smaller. I was an only child from their marriage. Derek was already in his 30s and had never been close to us. So suddenly, at 26, I was completely alone. The funeral was a blur. I remember the smell of lilies. I remember strangers hugging me. I remember not being able to cry because the grief was so huge it had frozen everything inside me. And I remember Uncle Richard, my dad's younger brother, standing at the burial site in his designer sunglasses and Italian shoes, one hand on my shoulder, telling me, "Don't worry about anything, Maya. I'll handle everything." That's what family does. At the time, I thought it was the kindest thing anyone had ever said to me. I was so stupid. Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda were the success story of the Chin family. While my dad had been content running his small accounting firm and living a comfortable, modest life, Richard had gone into real estate development and absolutely crushed it. By the time my parents died, Richard owned a real estate company worth over $40 million. He and Linda lived in a 12,000 square foot mansion in the most exclusive neighborhood in the state. They vacationed in Bali and Monaco. Their daughter Ashley had a trust fund that could have fed a small country. They were rich. Like, generational wealth rich. And they made sure everyone knew it. At the funeral reception, held at their massive house because it's what David would have wanted, I overheard Linda talking to another guest. "It's just tragic," she said, shaking her head. "Poor Maya has no idea how to handle any of this. David and Susan didn't exactly leave her with much financial literacy, if you know what I mean. She's going to need so much help." I was standing 10 feet away. She knew I could hear her. That should have been my first warning sign. Within a week, Uncle Richard had inserted himself into everything. He showed up at my apartment with a briefcase full of documents. "I've been going through your parents' finances," he said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. "I need you to sign some things so we can start settling the estate. It's all very standard, executor stuff, power of attorney, transfer documents. Just a formality." I was in shock. Barely sleeping. Barely eating. My brain felt like it was wrapped in cotton. I signed everything he put in front of me. Another massive mistake. Over the next 3 months, I watched my parents' life disappear piece by piece. The accounting firm? Had to be dissolved, Richard said. They had outstanding debts you weren't aware of. We used the business assets to pay those off. My childhood home? The property taxes were astronomical, Maya. And there was a second mortgage Susan took out that David didn't know about. We had to sell it just to break even. That was a lie. My mother would never have hidden a mortgage from my dad. They shared everything. My mom's retirement account, the one she'd been contributing to for 30 years as a nurse practitioner, unfortunately tied up in probate complications. There were some tax liens we're still sorting out. Another lie. My dad's life insurance policy? Turns out it had lapsed. He missed some payments. There's nothing there. I found out later he'd been paying it faithfully until the day he died. One by one, every asset vanished like smoke. I ended up with $23,000 in a checking account and a box of photo albums. My parents had been worth at least $2.5 million when they died. Conservative estimate. And I got $23,000. Meanwhile, 6 months after my parents' funeral, Uncle Richard bought a vacation property in Fort Lauderdale, a beachfront condo worth $1.2 million. Aunt Linda started driving a new Mercedes G-Wagon. Ashley's Instagram feed exploded with luxury shopping hauls, 5-star restaurants, and trips to Paris. And Derek, my half-brother who'd always resented how close I was with our dad, suddenly had a brand new pickup truck and a promotion at Uncle Richard's company, where he'd been working in a mid-level position for years. But I was alone in a 400-square-foot studio apartment, working double shifts at a coffee shop and waitressing at night just to cover rent and groceries. And that's when I became the family joke. The first time Ashley made a comment, we were at a family barbecue about 8 months after my parents died. I'd shown up in jeans and a simple blouse because, frankly, it was all I had. I was still wearing clothes from college because I couldn't afford new ones. Ashley walked up to me in a designer sundress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, looked me up and down, and said, "Oh my God, Maya, are you still wearing that? I think I remember you in that same outfit at Christmas." It had been July. She laughed like it was a joke, but her eyes were cold. Aunt Linda overheard and swooped in. "Ashley, be nice. Not everyone has your fashion sense." She turned to me with a pitying smile. "Maya, honey, if you ever need anything, clothes, whatever, you just let me know. I'd be happy to give you some of Ashley's hand-me-downs." I was 27 years old. Ashley was 24. I smiled and said, "I'm fine, but thank you." Derek wandered over with a beer, already half-drunk at 3 in the afternoon. "Maya, you still working at that coffee place?" "Yes," I said. "Huh." He took a swig. "Must be nice to have such low career ambitions. No stress, right?" Uncle Richard called out from the grill, "Derek, leave your sister alone. Maya's figuring things out. Not everyone is cut out for business like you are, son." Like Derek had earned anything in his life on his own merit. That was the beginning. Over the next 3 years, every family gathering became an exercise in humiliation. At Thanksgiving, Aunt Linda made a big show of packing up leftovers for me. "So you don't have to spend money on groceries this week, sweetie." At Christmas, Ashley posted Instagram stories from the family gift exchange, making sure to film herself opening luxury presents, then panning over to show me holding a $25 Target gift card that Linda had given me because we know money's tight. Derek started calling me the charity case behind my back. I heard him say it once to Ashley, and they both laughed. Uncle Richard would occasionally offer me opportunities at his company, receptionist positions, filing clerk jobs, always with this magnanimous tone like he was doing me the biggest favor in the world. "You could work your way up, Maya," he'd say. That's how I built my empire. Hard work. Determination. He'd built his empire by stealing mine, but I didn't know that yet. The worst part? They made me feel grateful. They positioned themselves as the family members who stepped up when I had nothing. They acted like they were being generous by including me in gatherings, by offering me jobs, by giving me their table scraps. And for a long time, I believed them. I believed I was the failure. I believed my parents must have been worse with money than I'd thought. I believed I was lucky to have family who tolerated me despite being such a disappointment. But then, about 14 months after the funeral, something happened that changed everything. I was cleaning out my storage unit, the tiny $50 a month space where I'd shoved all the boxes from my parents' house after it sold. I was looking for my mom's recipe box because I wanted to make her famous lasagna. It was her birthday, and I was alone in my apartment, crying into a box of Kleenex, desperately wanting to feel close to her. I found the recipe box in a larger cardboard box labeled Susan's Office. And underneath the recipe box was a file folder. It was marked Estate Planning 2019, just a few months before my parents died. Inside were copies of documents, wills, trust papers, property deeds, life insurance policies. I almost didn't read them. Legal documents made my brain hurt, and I was already emotionally destroyed. But something made me look closer. The will was dated 8 months before they died. It clearly stated that all assets were to be transferred to me, with Uncle Richard named as executor to assist Maya Chen in managing the estate until she is comfortable handling it independently. There was a trust, a living trust, that held the house, the business, and most of their financial accounts. I was the sole beneficiary. The life insurance policy was active, fully paid, with a death benefit of $500,000. I was the only beneficiary. There were property deeds for the house, free and clear, no mortgage. My mom had written a note in the margin, paid off early. Never have to worry about losing our home. There were retirement account statements showing balances over $800,000. I sat on the floor of that storage unit for 2 hours, reading and rereading these documents. Nothing matched what Uncle Richard had told me. There was no second mortgage, no hidden debt, no lapsed insurance policy, no probate complications. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my phone and Googled estate fraud. What I found made my blood run cold. Executor theft, embezzlement, elder financial abuse extended to vulnerable heirs, forged documents, shell companies, asset diversion. All of it was real. All of it was common. And all of it had happened to me. I drove straight to the county clerk's office the next morning. I requested copies of every document filed related to my parents' estate. What I got back was a nightmare. The will on file was different from the one in my storage unit. It had been updated 2 weeks after my parents died, which was impossible since they were already dead. The signatures looked like my dad's, but when I compared them closely to other documents I had, there were tiny differences. The loops were wrong. The pressure was off. Someone had forged my father's signature. The house deed showed a transfer to a shell company called Chin Family Holdings LLC that I'd never heard of. When I searched the business registry, the company had been created 4 days after my parents' funeral. The owner? Richard Chin. The life insurance policy had been cashed out to pay estate debts, but there was no documentation of what those debts actually were. My mother's retirement account had been transferred to something called Estate Settlement Fund, another shell company owned by Richard. I felt physically sick. But I also felt something I hadn't felt in over a year: anger. Pure, white-hot, clarifying anger. I couldn't afford a regular lawyer, so I started researching law schools. I found a legal aid clinic that helped with estate fraud cases. A third-year law student named Marcus agreed to look at my documents. He took one look and said, "Holy shit. This is textbook embezzlement." He connected me with his professor, who connected me with a lawyer who worked on contingency, meaning he'd only get paid if we won. The lawyer's name was David Zhao. He was in his 50s, had built his career on taking down white-collar criminals, and he looked at my case like a hunter who'd just spotted a wounded animal. "This is going to be good," he said, almost gleeful. "Your uncle got sloppy. He thought you'd never question him. We're going to bury him." But David warned me, This is going to take time. We need to build an airtight case. We need forensic accounting, document analysis, and we need to prove intent. Can you be patient? I thought about the last 3 years. The humiliation. The poverty. The way they'd laughed at me. I can be patient, I said. For the next 18 months, I lived a double life. During the day, I worked my 2 jobs, showed up to family events, smiled through the insults, and played the role of broke, pathetic Maya. But at night, I was someone else entirely. I met with Marcus and David every week. We went through every bank statement, every property transfer, every document with a microscope. We hired a forensic accountant, a brilliant woman named Dr. Sarah Lynn who specialized in financial fraud. She worked at a discounted rate because, as she told me, I hate people who steal from grieving families. Dr. Lynn traced every dollar. The house sale? The money had gone into Chin Family Holdings, which then invested it into a Florida property, the beachfront condo Uncle Richard now called his vacation home. My mom's retirement account? Transferred to the estate settlement fund, which then paid off the mortgage on Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda's primary residence. The life insurance payout? Used to buy Ashley a new car and fund Derek's promotion within Richard's company. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd built their upgraded lifestyle on the ashes of my parents' life's work. Dr. Lynn put together a 247-page report documenting every fraudulent transaction. David filed the lawsuit in late December, 3 years and 8 months after my parents died. But here's the beautiful part. David had a flair for the dramatic. He timed the official legal notifications, the ones that would go to Uncle Richard, Aunt Linda, Derek, and Ashley's phones to be delivered at exactly 12:01 a.m. on New Year's Day. I want them to start the year knowing their world is about to end, David said with a smile that could cut glass. And he wanted me there to see it. So I RSVP'd yes to Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda's annual New Year's Eve party. One last performance. Their house looked like something out of Architectural Digest. White and gold balloon installations. A champagne tower that must have cost thousands. A live jazz band in the living room. Catered food from the most expensive restaurant in the city. And everywhere I looked, things bought with my money. The new chandelier in the foyer? My mom's retirement account. The outdoor kitchen where staff was grilling Wagyu beef? My childhood home. Ashley's diamond earrings? My dad's life insurance policy. I walked in wearing a simple black dress from Target, the nicest thing I owned, and immediately felt the stares. Ashley was near the fireplace, holding court with her influencer friends, all of them dressed like they'd just walked off a runway. She saw me and her perfectly microbladed eyebrows shot up. "Oh my God," she said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Maya actually came. I honestly didn't think you'd show up. Isn't the entry fee to this party, like, existing above the poverty line?" Her friends laughed. I smiled. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Ashley." "That's so brave of you," she continued, walking over. She was recording on her phone, probably for Instagram. "I mean, everyone here is so successful and put together. Doesn't it feel weird being the only broke person in the room?" "Not really," I said calmly. "Well, you're stronger than me." She flipped her hair. "I could never handle being a failure. But I guess some people are just built different." Derek appeared with a whiskey in hand, already buzzed. "Little sister, you made it. Did you take the bus here, or did you spring for an Uber?" "I drove," I said. He laughed. "That death trap of yours actually made it up the hill?" "Impressive." Uncle Richard materialized, all fake warmth. "Maya, so glad you could join us. You look nice." The pause before nice was deliberate. Aunt Linda kissed both my cheeks, her perfume overpowering. "Sweetheart, I'm so happy you're here. I worry about you spending holidays alone." She lowered her voice. "Are you still seeing that therapist I recommended? The one who has a sliding scale for low-income patients?" "I'm doing great, actually," I said. She looked skeptical. "Well, if you need anything, money, food, whatever, you know we're here for you." Richard and I were just saying we should set up a little monthly allowance for you, just to help you get by. I wanted to scream, but instead I said, that's very thoughtful. The night went on. Ashley posted constant Instagram stories, making sure to capture the luxury of every moment. At one point, she did a party tour video where she panned past me and said, "And over here is my cousin Maya, who, well, she tries." Derek cornered me near the bar. "You know, Maya, I've been thinking. You've been struggling for a while now. Maybe it's time to admit that you're just not built for success like the rest of us." "Maybe," I said, checking my phone. 11:47 p.m. Almost time. "I'm serious," Derek continued. "Some people are born winners. Some people are born, well, you." Uncle Richard gathered everyone in the main room at 11:50 p.m. for his annual New Year's toast. He stood in front of the fireplace, champagne glass raised, every inch the successful patriarch. "Another incredible year," he began. "I'm so grateful for this family, for our health, for our success. We've worked hard, made smart decisions, and built something remarkable together." People applauded. "And I'm especially grateful that we can be here for family members who are struggling," he continued, glancing at me. "Because that's what family does. We lift each other up." I felt rage boil in my chest, but I kept my face neutral. Ashley grabbed the microphone from her dad. "Okay, before we count down, I just want to say something." "Oh God. Here we go." "This family is, like, literally amazing," she gushed. "My parents have built this incredible life through hard work and smart choices. And I'm so lucky to be surrounded by successful, ambitious people who know how to make things happen." She turned and looked directly at me. "Of course, not everyone has figured it out yet. Some people are still, like, living paycheck to paycheck, working minimum wage jobs, just barely surviving. And that's sad. It really is." People were uncomfortable now, but Ashley was on a roll. "So I just want to say, Maya," she walked over to me, phone recording, "no hard feelings, okay? We know you've had a rough few years. And we get it. Not everyone can be successful. Some people are just meant to be. I don't know, broke, I guess." She laughed. A few people laughed with her. Derek raised his glass. "To people who actually make something of themselves. And to the ones who don't, well, at least they have us to mooch off of." The room was silent. This had gone too far, even for them. Uncle Richard tried to salvage it. Okay, let's just..." "No, Dad, I'm not done," Ashley interrupted. "Maya, seriously. You're too broke to belong here. Like, look around. Everyone here is somebody. And you're nobody. You work in a coffee shop. You drive a car from 2005. You're wearing a dress that probably came from, like, Walmart. Target, actually," I said calmly. She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. Same difference. My point is, maybe next year you should skip this party. Because it's honestly kind of embarrassing for everyone." The room was dead silent. I looked at her, then at Derek, then at Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda. And I smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd had in 3 years. "You know what, Ashley?" I said clearly. "You're absolutely right. Next year is going to be very, very different." She laughed. "Sure it is, babe." The countdown started. 10. I pulled out my phone. I had a text from David Zhao, sent at 11:58 p.m. Notifications are queued. Midnight delivery confirmed. "Happy New Year, Maya. Let's burn them down." 9. 8. Ashley was back at the front with her champagne, ready for her Instagram moment. 7. 6. Uncle Richard had his arm around Aunt Linda, both of them smiling. 5. 4. Derek was filming the countdown on his phone. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Confetti exploded. Balloons dropped from the ceiling. The band launched into Auld Lang Syne. People cheered, kissed, hugged. And then, 12:01 a.m. Uncle Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it casually. Then his face changed. The color drained from his skin like someone had pulled a plug. His champagne glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Aunt Linda's phone lit up. She looked down. "Richard," she whispered. "What is this?" Derek's phone went off. Then Ashley's. Buzz. 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 For phones. For notifications. For lives about to explode. I watched them read the message. Legal notice. You are hereby notified that you have been named as a defendant in a civil lawsuit filed in Superior Court by Maya Susan Chen. You are being sued for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and theft in connection with the estate of David Chin and Susan Chin, deceased. Total damages sought, $3.2 million plus punitive damages. You are also under investigation for criminal charges, including wire fraud and identity theft. Please contact legal representation immediately. Case hashtag 2024, CV 8847. Attorney David Zhao, Zhao and Associates. The room kept celebrating. No one else knew yet, but I was watching them unravel in real time. Ashley looked up from her phone, her face white as paper. "Dad?" Her voice cracked. "Dad, what is this?" Uncle Richard couldn't speak. He just stared at his screen, hands shaking. Derek was scrolling frantically. "This is fake. This has to be fake. This can't be real." Aunt Linda's eyes found mine across the room. And she knew. In that instant, she understood everything. She breathed. People started noticing something was wrong. The music kept playing, but conversations were stopping. Heads were turning. Uncle Richard's voice came out strangled. "Maya, what did you do?" The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. I stepped forward, calm and steady, and reached into my purse. I pulled out a USB drive, bright red, impossible to miss. "I found out the truth," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the room. "About what you did to my parents' estate. About what you stole from me." Ashley's voice was shrill. "You're insane. You're literally making this up." "Am I?" I held up the USB drive. "This contains 247 pages of forensic accounting. Every fraudulent transaction. Every forged document. Every dollar you stole." The room was riveted now. Uncle Richard tried to speak. "Maya, you're confused. You don't understand how estates work. I understand that you forged my father's signature on a new will after he was already dead," I said, my voice hard. "I understand that you created shell companies to hide stolen assets. I understand that you used my mother's retirement account to pay off your mortgage. I understand that you bought your vacation home with money from the sale of my childhood house, money that should have gone to me." Aunt Linda was shaking. "This is slander." "It's not slander if it's true," I said. "And I can prove every word." The lawsuit was filed 3 days ago. The court date is set for January 15th. And as of 1 minute ago, all 4 of you have been officially notified. I turned to face the room. Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda stole $2.3 million from me after my parents died. They forged documents. They lied to me. They made me think I was broke while they spent my inheritance on luxury vacations, cars, and jewelry. Ashley made a choking sound. "I didn't know." "You benefited," I said coldly. "That car you drive? Bought with my dad's life insurance policy. Those diamond earrings? My mom's pension. Your little influencer lifestyle? Built on my family's money." I looked at Derek. "And you? You got a promotion and a salary increase funded by stolen assets. You're complicit." Derek's face was red. "You can't prove any of this." "I already have." I held up the USB drive again. "Forensic accounting. Document analysis. Expert testimony. Bank records. Property transfers. Forged signatures. It's all here. And it's all going in front of a judge." Uncle Richard's voice shook. "We can talk about this. We can work something out." "No," I said simply. "We're way past that. You had 3 years to do the right thing. You chose to humiliate me instead. You chose to call me broke, pathetic, a failure. You made me believe I was nothing." My voice got stronger. But I'm not nothing. I'm my parents' daughter. And I'm taking back everything you stole from them. Aunt Linda lunged forward. You ungrateful little. Careful, I said quietly. There are 40 witnesses in this room, and several of them are recording. She froze. I turned to Ashley. Oh, and Ashley? You might want to delete those Instagram stories. Because everyone's about to find out that your entire life is built on theft. Good luck keeping your followers after that. Ashley burst into tears. I looked around the room one last time. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for the memories. And I walked out. Behind me, the chaos erupted. Shouting. Crying. Ashley's screams. But I didn't look back. I got in my beat-up 2005 Honda, turned on the ignition, and drove away from that house. And for the first time in 3 years and 8 months, I felt free. The lawsuit took 9 months. Uncle Richard hired a team of expensive lawyers who tried every trick in the book. They claimed I was misunderstanding complex financial instruments. They argued that the estate had been properly administered. They said I was emotionally unstable and making false accusations. But David Zhao was better. He presented Dr. Lin's forensic accounting report, all 247 pages of detailed, irrefutable evidence. He brought in a handwriting expert who testified that the signatures on the new will were forgeries. He showed the timeline of shell company creation, asset transfers, and luxury purchases. He brought receipts. Literal receipts. The Florida condo? Purchased 6 months after my parents died, using funds traced directly to my mother's retirement account. The Mercedes G-Wagon? Bought with money from the sale of my childhood home. Ashley's car? Paid for with life insurance proceeds that should have come to me. Derek's salary increase? Funded by embezzled estate assets. Uncle Richard's lawyers tried to negotiate a settlement. David told them to go to hell. We're not settling, he told me. We're going to make them pay for every penny, and then we're going after punitive damages. In the end, Richard didn't want to risk a criminal trial. He settled for $2.8 million, almost everything he'd stolen, plus interest. But the terms of the settlement were brutal. The Florida condo was transferred to me. I sold it for $1.4 million. Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda had to liquidate assets to pay the settlement. They sold their vacation home, downsized their primary residence, and Richard had to take out a massive loan against his business. Ashley had to return jewelry, designer bags, and other high-value items purchased with stolen funds. Her car was repossessed as part of the asset recovery. Derek lost his job when Uncle Richard's company nearly collapsed under the financial strain of the lawsuit. Last I heard, he moved to Nevada and works in property management. But the money was just the beginning. The real consequences were social. The story went public. Local news picked it up. Real estate developer sued for embezzling dead brother's estate. Uncle Richard's business reputation was destroyed. Clients dropped him. Partners distanced themselves. Banks stopped lending to him. Ashley's influencer career imploded overnight. People dug through her old posts, matched purchase dates with stolen fund transfer dates, and she got absolutely eviscerated online. She lost 90% of her followers in 2 weeks. Brand deals disappeared. She eventually deleted all her social media. Aunt Linda's social circle, all those wealthy friends she'd spent years cultivating, turned on her completely. She was disinvited from charity boards, country club memberships were revoked, and she became a social pariah. Derek tries to pretend I don't exist. We haven't spoken since that New Year's Eve. I don't care. As for me, the settlement money changed my life, but not in the way you might think. I paid off my debts, all of them. Student loans, medical bills, credit cards I'd maxed out just trying to survive. I quit both my jobs. I went back to school and got my MBA. I bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood, nothing extravagant, but it's mine. Really mine. And I started a nonprofit called the Chin Foundation, named after my parents. We help people who've been victims of estate fraud. We provide legal resources, connect them with lawyers who work on contingency, and offer financial literacy education. In the last 2 years, we've helped recover over $8 million for families who were stolen from by people they trusted. My parents would have loved that. I also started therapy. Real therapy with a psychologist who specializes in trauma and family betrayal. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Even when you win, even when you get justice, the pain doesn't just disappear. I still have nightmares about my parents' accident. I still feel a stab of grief when I see something that reminds me of them. And I still feel angry, not every day anymore, but sometimes about the 3 years of my life that were stolen from me. But I'm healing. And I'm building something good from the ashes of something terrible. Last month, I drove past Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda's house, the one they downsized to after the lawsuit. It's small. Normal. Probably what my parents' house looked like. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of what they did. So I drove past and I didn't look back. Because they don't get to take up any more space in my life. I'm done giving them power. They thought I was too broke to belong. Too poor, too uneducated, too weak to ever fight back. They underestimated me because I was grieving, because I was young, because I trusted them. And that was their biggest mistake. Because grief doesn't make you weak. It makes you resilient. Poverty doesn't make you stupid. It makes you resourceful. And betrayal doesn't make you powerless. It makes you determined. I learned that patience is a weapon. Evidence is armor. And the truth, no matter how long it takes, always comes out. If you're in a situation like mine, if someone has stolen from you, betrayed you, made you feel small, please hear me. You are not powerless. Document everything. Ask questions. Trust your instincts. Find people who believe you. And never, ever give up. Justice might take time. It might be painful. It might cost you relationships and sleep and years of your life. But it's worth it. Because you deserve to be whole again. My parents taught me that family means love, loyalty, and protection. Uncle Richard and Aunt Linda taught me that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you most. But I taught myself that I could survive them, outsmart them, and ultimately defeat them. So to everyone watching this, if you've been betrayed, stolen from, or made to feel like you're nothing, you're not alone. Keep fighting. Keep documenting. Keep believing in yourself. And when the clock strikes midnight on your new beginning, make sure they know exactly who they underestimated. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share your own stories of justice in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories matter. And remember, you're stronger than you think, smarter than they believe, and more powerful than they'll ever know. Happy New Year! And here's to getting what you deserve.